The transfer portal is still buzzing. Like I said, we're a little bit out of the woods when it comes to some of those names that are jumping into the portal. We still have a couple of those, so we'll talk about that. But before we got on air here, Caden Green, offensive tackle from Oklahoma, gave his commitment to Missouri. Now, this is big for Missouri. You need a guy like Caden Green, who was a top 100 recruit previously. You need a guy like him to set the edge in the SEC. Because, listen, we watch NFL football occasionally here. And whenever you watch the Sunday night games and it gets to the defensive line and they're doing their whole, first name, last name, and they tell you what school they're from, a lot of times that school they talk about or the school they refer to as an SEC school, at the end of the day, you need to be able to have someone on the offensive line at the tackle position to block those freaky edge defenders in the SEC. So don't look now, but Eli Drinkwitz, he's cooking currently. Has a top 26 class on the recruiting trail, has a top 15 portal class to the good folks at Mizzou. So that's another big pickup for Coach Drink and company. And like I said, need that in the SEC. Now here's a name for you, KJ Jefferson, quarterback at Arkansas. The writing was sort of on the wall when it came to Arkansas taking a portal quarterback. KJ Jefferson officially in the portal. Our very own Pete Nakos. Y'all get dialed in notification-wise with Pete Nakos so you can make sure you're up to date for all things transfer portal. Has got an early list here of schools for KJ Jefferson. It may not be the only three, but they're the early three in this race. UCF, Miami, and TCU. Miami, if they strike out on Cam Ward, the thought behind them going after KJ Jefferson is you can't afford to not take a portal quarterback at this point in the game for Miami. For TCU, who's calling plays for TCU? A1 Kendall Briles, who was also KJ Jefferson's offensive coordinator at Arkansas. So a little reuniting there, kind of be able to pick up where you left off at in Fayetteville, and you take that all the way out to Fort Worth. So that could be a good fit. Here's the school that I like the most, though. UCF, to me, makes the most sense schematically for a couple of reasons. One, they still need a transfer portal quarterback, okay? That's the obvious part. Two, they have proof of concept with their transfer portal quarterback. John Rice Plumlee had a decent season last year. So you've seen guys come in from one program to another, play quarterback for Gus Malzahn, and have success. Who is the number one comp that gets thrown around sometime irresponsibly, but thrown around nonetheless for KJ Jefferson? A1 Cameron Newton. And who was Cam Newton's OC when he won the Heisman at Auburn? Gus Malzahn. Who's the head coach at UCF? Gus Malzahn. I'm not saying KJ Jefferson shows up there and wins the Heisman, but you want to talk about somebody who's able to utilize your skill set with the massive size that KJ Jefferson has and how he runs the football downhill. You need someone who understands that. And so I understand Kendall Briles was your OC previously, but I think Gus Malzahn and his resume working with Cam Newton, if I'm KJ Jefferson, that would be pretty attractive to me when it comes to my options through the transfer portal. Another commitment was Vanderbilt quarterback A.J. Swan, taking his talents to LSU. A lot of smoke around South Carolina. Thought that was going to be the school for a minute. Now he's going to Baton Rouge. And the interesting thing about this whole commitment to me was A.J. Swan, when he committed per the Hayes Fawcett graphic, said, I want to be a part of winning a national championship. Brian Kelly's bringing a national championship to Baton Rouge. I want to be a part of that. I'm paraphrasing. That was loosely what he said, implying that he believes he's going to have a pretty real chance to start in Baton Rouge. And I don't think that you transfer to a place like LSU if you're a quarterback A.J. Swan's caliber, if you don't think you have a chance to win that job. Now, let's rewind the tape a little bit here. Remember Garrett Nussmeier during the post-spring portal window? He announced, hey, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at LSU. Jaden Daniels is like, I appreciate the way Garrett's handled all this. It's going to be awesome when it's his time to shine. There's been a lot of juice around Garrett Nussmeier, especially at the end of last season, of him potentially being the guy for LSU. Tons of arm talent. We all remember what he did in the SEC title game a season ago, pushing the ball downfield. Like, the dude has some juice now. So my curiosity here is, he's going to play in the bowl game, is Garrett Nussmeier. What happens if he goes out against Wisconsin and just goes off? I'm talking like 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. What does that mean for the A.J. Swan situation in Baton Rouge? I'm curious to watch this battle in the spring because I think it'll be a really good one. Again, I thought Garrett Nussmeier was kind of your guy at LSU. Obviously, they want to elevate their quarterback room by nature of bringing the guy like A.J. Swan, again, from Vanderbilt. Now, this made waves last night. Dante Moore, one of the top quarterbacks in the transfer portal, kind of going full circle mode and recommitting to Oregon. I say recommitting because out of high school, the 5-star committed to Oregon originally. Bo Nix said, you know what, I want to come back for another season. Dante Moore says, hey, I want to play right now. Flips to UCLA close to signing day. And now, by way of the portal, is headed back to Eugene. And here's the big thing for me, and we said this the entire recruitment via the portal of Dante Moore. Him even being willing to look at Oregon, much less commit, shows a ton of maturity, because he's made it known that he is willing to sit for a season. To be clear, that's what's happening here. I wholeheartedly believe he is going to Oregon to sit behind Dillon Gabriel for one season and then be the guy after he leaves. So for Dante Moore, like I said, maturity, understanding like, hey, I had one season under my belt, have some things I still want to learn, and who better to learn from than a guy like Dillon Gabriel going into his 6th year of playing college football. I think that's a phenomenal fit for Dante Moore and his skill set and Will Stein's offense. Going to be really a quick processing kind of offense, him to get the ball out on time, be accurate. You'll put up big numbers. Ask Bo Nix and about his trip to New York City. The bottom line here for me with Oregon is now you have your quarterback for the present in Dillon Gabriel, who is a top 3 portal quarterback for us here at On 3. And then you got Dante Moore for the future, who is also a top 3 portal quarterback for us here at On 3. So the bottom line here is, any way you spin it, Oregon has their ducks in a row, no pun intended, for when they get to the Big Ten Conference. So that's obviously a massive get, landing not 1 but 2 portal quarterbacks to Eugene. Also, I say this a lot when it comes to these portal segments, but we got to make sure we drive this home. I cannot imagine that it is in any way, shape, or form cheap to land 2 of the top transfer portal quarterbacks in the country. Okay, so again, Oregon flexing their muscle, flexing what they got under the hood, NIL. I think it means something, and I think there's something to be said for having your ducks in a row and having the organization and structure to land quarterbacks of a Dante Moore and a Dillon Gabriel. Again, that broke last night. One more I want to get to here. This is not a commitment, but a big-time player that jumped into the portal. Defensive back from USC, Damani Jackson. Damani Jackson, Southern California kid, went to Mater Dei. He was the number 5 overall player in the class of 2022. So this is not just some average Joe Schmo who couldn't cut it at USC, who's now looking for somewhere else to play. Like, no. This is a dude with a ton of ability that will have a ton of suitors. And if you're reading the tea leaves here, someone that I follow on Twitter that's pretty close to the USC program, who was formerly at USC, said he had a talk with Damani Jackson. He didn't say this to me. He tweeted this out. Sua Craven says to watch Michigan and to watch Alabama. That makes sense to me. Those were 2 schools that were in contention for him when it came to the high school level. Wouldn't it be just like Nick Saban to circle back and land one of the top players from the 2022 class, and the rich just get richer when it comes to what they have on the defensive side of the football? So at this point in time, man, a lot of these big names starting to come off the board. Yes, there's still some big names that are leaking into the portal, but when it comes to names that are going to be committing here, again, I'm closely watching the Cam Ward domino effect. I have no intel as to when that would happen, but when it comes to him coming off the board, I promise you that will kind of light the fuse. The chain reaction will start, and at the quarterback position at least, we'll see a lot of these guys start to commit, and we'll see a chain reaction there. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.